Hello everybody, I'm Don Counts and we are at the Warrior exhibit and I have my friend Woodye Bedford with us today. Woodye, tell us a little about yourself and what brought you into the military.
Well, I think we'll start with that I was born in the old hospital in Fayetteville, and I was a pain back then too. Mother stayed 3 days on average. Yeah, we stayed 4. And then they took me home to Lynchburg, that first house just past the library on the highway. And we stayed there till the summer of after my second grade. And we moved to West Palm Beach, Florida, because my brother had asthma. And back then they gave my parents a choice. You move to a better climate or bury him. So I started the 3rd grade in West Palm Beach. And I played a lot on the water. We were pretty close to the Intercoastal Waterway. As time went on, I did a lot of stuff, a lot of scuba diving. I had qualified lifesaver, had a job as a lifeguard for a while in high school. And my parents back then had the idea everybody had to go to college. Well, in spring of 1968, I flunked out of my second college. Some people just ain't made for college. And I got a letter from the latest college saying that they had sent a letter to my local draft board that I was no longer eligible for a student deferment from the draft. And we're back to that lifeguard thing. I can swim a lot faster and further than I can run. So I think it was August. I went down to the local recruiters. No offense, the Army recruiter lied to me. And I was old enough to catch it. I wear glasses and ain't no way I'm gonna be a pilot. Marine Corps, I did walk across the street and go around the Marine Corps. There wasn't no way I was doing that, just not my lifestyle. Air Force offered me E3, nothing else. The Coast Guard, have a cup of coffee, son. I got an opening in 1974. This is 68. I don't think I'm going to make it. So I went to the Navy recruiter, and they gave me E3 right up front because of my college and a guaranteed school. He wouldn't say what, but a guaranteed school. And I was supposed to go in January. Well, I got a phone call. I left West Palm Beach going to Miami to the induction center. Christmas Day, 1968. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The next day I was in the Navy and on a plane to San Diego. 19 years old. First flight. Yeah. What a trip.
I bet.
And I got to San Diego, went to boot camp San Diego. After San Diego, I went to Great Lakes to Gunner's Mate School. Gunner's Mate. Went home for a couple of weeks, then got to take another one of them airplane rides all the way to Rome, Italy.
Wow.
At least lucky in the New York airport. One of the fellows that I knew from the gun school was going to the same place. So I had a buddy, and that really helped. And I went on board the USS Little Rock, CLG-4, light cruiser. I worked on 6-inch guns, 5-inch guns, 40 millimeter, a lot of small arms. We spent 13 months straight in the Mediterranean. Came home to Boston to the shipyard. After that, I turned 21 in Gaeta, Italy. Like that made a difference. Hey, nobody checked ID cards over there. And in 1970, in Gaeta, Italy, a fifth of Jack Daniel was $5
Wow.
in the Coast Guard exchange. Yeah. But back to the Little Rock, I got off there. Well, actually, I got married. Then I got off the Little Rock, got to Mayport, Florida. I went to the USS Marius, AO-57, an oiler, and I rode it through the Caribbean. It went in the yards, and it had a 3-inch 50 slow fire, and when it went in the yards, I didn't have anything to do. The Navy sent me temporary duty to the USS Suribachi, AO-21, ammunition ship. I got to go through the Panama Canal, got to spend 7 days in Hawaii, got to go to Subic Bay in the Philippines, and a gun line in Vietnam, passing bullets. I was in cargo and weapons, and when we were on the gun line, I was eating 4 meals a day. And 1,000-pound bombs ain't bad to sleep on. And they had 3-inch 50 rapid fire, so I got to work on them. Came back, my daughter was born, and was coming up on the end of my enlistment. I talked to my then wife. What are we going to do? I can go home to West Palm Beach, and what am I going to do? You know, now I got a wife and family support. And we talked about re-enlisted in the Navy, and we were watching ships go on a 6-month deployment and coming back 9 and 10 months later. And that wasn't for me. So I said what she thought about the Coast Guard. So we went to see the Coast Guard recruiter. In October 1972, he was sure happy to see me, because I had qualifications in the gun world that the Coast Guard really wanted. And I think on the ASVAB scores, I was one of the highest scores he'd ever seen. But I've been playing with it. I'd been doing it, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was. The neat thing, though, before I could enlist in the Coast Guard, my former wife had to sign a letter saying that not only did she know I was joining the Coast Guard, but I had her permission.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty good.
That is good.
Yeah. Told him I wanted shore duty, and he said they had a billet in Governor's Island, New York, but it was going to be, he said, 13, 14 months before I get a house. No, we ain't playing that game. He came back with a picture of a 95-foot Coast Guard cutter. He says, I got one of these in Savannah, Georgia, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or Riviera Beach, Florida, wherever that's at. And by the way, Riviera Beach and West Palm Beach are border to border. Yeah, where I graduated high school, my wife's home, yeah. And my father had passed away about 8 weeks earlier. Yeah. I looked up at my then wife and said, you want to go home? She said, yeah, let's go home. I looked back at that recruiter, and he was just all shock, because I checked off half a dozen of his recruiting requirements, you know. So we'll take Riviera Beach. Yeah, November 30th, I got out of the Navy. December 1st, 1972, I joined the Coast Guard and went to the Coast Guard cutter Cape Fox in Riviera Beach, Florida. And I was very, very fortunate back then. My brother was flipping homes before it was flipping homes. Yeah. And so he had a house. Marvelous 2 years. One of the things that did scare me, I went on board, check and see what I'm going to do, you know, what my job is. They had an 81 millimeter mortar with a 50 caliber piggyback. Hey, this is cool. I can handle all of this. 3 or 4 rifles, a pistol. Hey, this would be a piece of cake. And I said something to the bosun mate, who was the officer of the deck that day. about my job, and he says, your job is to be an officer of the day. I said, wait a minute, I'm a gunner's mate. I'm not allowed on the bridge. You know, I'm not supposed to go to the bridge. He said, well, it's going to be yours.
Wow.
And less than 3 weeks later, I was on a bridge, the Coast Guard cutter Cape Fox, going across the Gulf Stream, headed towards West End, Bahamas. And there was me and a seaman who had the helm and the engineer, and that was the only ones that was awake.
Wow.
Yeah, fast. And one of the things the Coast Guard give you responsibility in a heartbeat. I mean, they expect you. There's still a lot of that. But I had a little over 2 years on the Cape Fox. Learned to take meclizine. Yeah. Yeah. One of my other stories, we had a family thing. My brother and I was drinking pretty heavy. And the phone rang. Oops, you're getting underway. I was in no condition. My brother carried me down the dock, laid me on the deck, and said, you need to give him a little while. Oh, we had a good time. And on the Cape Fox, we'd have a aircraft search. Well, we'd run a straight line, and then the aircraft would navigate off of us. Well, the Cape Fox had 4 big 12-cylinder Caterpillar diesels. We'd cut it down to 1 engine. That's trolling speed. Everybody on deck's fishing. I don't fish. I don't care whose watch it was, what time of day, or whatever it was. I was on the bridge so everybody else could fish.
Oh. Wow.
And the damn pilot going over reported us for fishing. And Coast Guard Group Miami called up on the radio and said, y'all are on a search and rescue, not fishing. Okay. So now there are only 3 people on deck when they were 14. You know, that really made a lot of sense, but hey,
Yeah.
how the military stuff works sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And then February 1975, I went from West Palm Beach, Florida to Southwest Harbor, Maine. Wasn't that fun? Talk about a temperature change.
I bet.
Yeah. Maine was fun. I basically had old-time fireman's hours, 24 on, 48 off. We did a lot of traveling. My son was born up there, Ellsworth, Maine. We went up on Mount Desert Island, where the sun first rises on the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Spent time in Bar Harbor, all up and down the down East Coast. I was in charge of all the guns from Rockland, Maine to West Quoddy Head Lighthouse. I spent time in West Quoddy Head Lighthouse. And I can tell you, when the foghorn goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning, you stand up in your bed. But it only takes a few minutes to go back to sleep. That's like on ships. If you're asleep and the engine changes rhythms,
Right.
okay, what's up?
Oh.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. You can feel it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I had a good time in Southwest Harbor, Maine. One of my best ones, I had a government van. I had M60s, M16s, at least a dozen 1911s, and several thousand rounds of ammunition for everything, going from Southwest Harbor to Jonesport, Maine. And I got pulled over. And the officer walked up and he seen all them guns. He was pretty nice about it though. He wanted my paperwork. And I went, you want what? He says, I gotta see your paperwork for having them guns. I ain't got no paperwork. He says, you gotta have paperwork. If I got paperwork, I write it. I said, I got paperwork that the people who are getting these guns gonna sign. If you don't see that, but I don't need paperwork. I'm in the Coast Guard. That's fine. I finally gave him the group duty officer's phone number, and he called Group Southwest Harbor, and the story was recanted to me as, you got who? You got what? Yeah, they're his. He's responsible for them.
What were you protecting?
Training.
Just training.
I was taking all those guns up. I was a small arms instructor.
Gotcha.
And like in Southwest Harbor, Maine, we had an 82-foot Coast Guard cutter. The station, Jonesport. This Jonesport, we had station Jonesport, 82-foot cutter. I take all them to small arms range and certify them to carry guns.
I got you.
But anyway, back to my trooper, when he finally did, I asked him if he'd ever shot an M16 fully automatic. He said no and started drilling. I said, you know where we can do it? And he took me up a little logging road. We went off. I loaded up a couple of magazines of that M16 and let him shoot them.
Wow.
Yeah, and he kept, he one of the final things he appreciated and all, but he kept, and no paperwork.
Nope.
No paperwork. I got transferred from Southwest Harbor, Maine, and I did some things there we aren't going to talk about. But one of my funniest, Coast Guard had what's called a suspect vessel. And DEA agent wanted to go check out a vessel and wanted me to go as backup. Well, okay, I got an M16, a pistol, let's go. Oh no, he wanted me to carry an M60 machine gun to back him up. And I go, you got your bloody mind. You know, yeah. We finally got that halted. And there was another one of those we were going on. And the captain briefed me, colonel, other language, but captain briefed me. And he said, who you want your crew? And I told him as a local boy, growing up in the area fishing, I wanted him for the coxswain drive the boat. There was another fellow I knew was a fantastic engineer. And then I told him for my seaman, I wanted the two ladies. And I got you want what? I want the two ladies. They're qualified, I just qualified them. And I want them as the crew. And he says, the captain says, you got to have a reason for that. And I said, yep. If I tell them two ladies to jump overboard, they're going to jump overboard and then ask me why the hell I wanted to do that. If I got guys on here and I tell them to jump overboard, the first thing they're going to do is ask me why. And besides that, later on, it was said that the most feared law enforcement officer in the United States law enforcement fraternities was Coast Guard ladies.
Wow.
We gave 18-year-old a fully automatic rifle. Yeah. But we had a good time. I had lots of good time. I went from Southwest Harbor, Maine, April 78.
Okay.
I had a F-150 pickup truck, had twin coffins in the back that you could sleep on. My wife called them coffins. And back in that day, I had a pass-through window, and I had made it so it was flat. We tossed the kids back there. One of them coffins was full of guns because I had to take them home.
Yeah.
And we went through Canada.
Wow.
And I had a water pump break on it, and I called my wife's people, and they told me to back into Detroit. And about the time we were coming up on that border crossing, I go, I wonder if they're going to see those guns.
I bet.
Hey, we was in tow, and the guy doing the towing, he told them what we were doing, and they signaled us through. Come on.
On through.
Yeah. And we went through Detroit, and I came down through here to see my uncle Delbert McLean on the Boonville Road where I live now, and we went down to West Palm Beach.
That's a long trip.
Yes. Then I turned around and went to Norfolk, Virginia to catch a C-141 to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Now you notice there's a pattern here. Florida, snow,
Oh, yeah.
snow, Cuba,
Oh, man.
desert.
Oh,
Yeah, I was assigned to a float training group, Pacific, and it's a Navy command. I was in the Coast Guard detachment, and we train sailors to shoot the big guns. We train American sailors, Peruvian sailors, British sailors. The Brits are fun.
I bet.
Oh, I got to play with the Brits twice. On the Little Rock in Gibraltar, we'd drink on their ship and we'd eat on ours. And then them in Guantanamo Bay, they were fun. I had a good time training them. And I spent 3 years there, made chief there. And if you know anything about the sea service tradition, there's an initiation for chief. There was 3 Coast Guard guys made chief, and 3 Navy guys made chief. And making chief in a Navy command as a coastie, yeah, that was an adventure all in itself.
I bet.
Yeah, I need another raw egg since. But I spent 3 years there, a little better. Came out to Portsmouth, Virginia, Coast Guard Support Center, Portsmouth, in charge of the then Coast Guard 5th District Armory. From Wilmington, I was in charge of the guns. From Wilmington, South Carolina or North Carolina, I get this straight, from Wilmington to Delaware. And that was quite the adventure. And mostly small arms, lots and lots of small arms training. Really had some good times.
You trained a lot of people.
And one of my favorites, they were going to build an armory. We were talking about building an armory in a range on the sports center where I was at. And I was at a meeting, one of the strategic and money, whatever meetings, and Admiral and all of that. And I'm encouraging, and they want to know why. And, I'm telling them I'm doing training in garbage dumps, places where I got backgrounds. I'm doing training on the beach with a lookout to be sure that there's no boats within range. Just everything up. And it's costing y'all a lot of money. And the Admiral said, well, it's not documented. We don't have that much money, on record looking. And yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. He said, well, you going to tell us? No. I like these. Says, Admiral, you don't take a walk? Please? He says, okay. So we adjourned for lunch, and me and the Admiral took a walk. And I told him how much the leather belts and stuff that the Coast Guard had given Norfolk, Virginia for the use of their range. I told him how many pallets of paint went to Crestfield, Maryland, to use their range, and how much that we had bartered to use the range. You know, I said, Admiral, my whole job is get it done. You give me orders to get it done, I got it done. But if we fess up to this, you're going to have to court-martial me. And he went, oh, we got to get back to the meeting. Okay. Well, we ended up back in a meeting, and he called a meeting order, and he started giving orders. We're building this range. And one of the, I think it was commander, he asked the admiral if he was going to tell us, you know, what changed his mind. He says, Chief's quite persuasive. Oh. Well, in there, October 1983, I made warrant officer. So, I was so blessed. I walked across the base. I went from the armory. When it was so hard to give up my workbench in that armory. I had so much fun being an armorer there. Really enjoyed it. But I went from there to security and became a security officer. Or in other military languages, I became provost marshal. And that was fun. One of my funs, they had a gym on base, and the admiral's wife, same admiral by the way, liked to park in handicapped parking. So the district command master chief lived across the street from me. And I went to see him and said, hey, Master Chief, I got a problem. That yellow Volkswagen in the handicapped parking space, it's the admiral's wife, and she's going in there to work out, and she ain't handicapped. He went, I know, Gunner. I says, I'm going to get a forklift, and I'm going to pick it up and hide it from her, or I'm going to put a buoy anchor in each end of it, and she's going to have her husband order me to move them. I'll take care of it. She never parked there again. I had a good time. And I went from there to Coast Guard headquarters in Washington, D.C. as the shell answer man for small arms. I dealt in budgets, in ammunition budgets, in amounts of money that just baffled me. But I was there 3 years, a little over, about 3.5. The guy I worked for didn't like me. I didn't like him. And I got assigned to the Department of Defense Small Arms Management Committee. So I go to committee meetings. Everybody else is at least a commander or a GS-13. Yeah.
Wow.
And one of the neat things was we'd go to vote and everybody called home but me. And one time they sent me out to the air base in San Antonio. It's on the north side. I can't remember the name of it right now. I went out there and I went to check into the BOQ. And them people looked at me very strangely. And I figured it's because the Air Force doesn't have warrant officers. Well, I get my room. I go to what I think is my room. I had a sitting room, I had a living room, had a bath and a half, had a kitchen, had a dining room, had an office. I joined the wrong service. So I get my stuff stowed and I go to the officers club. You know, as all these meetings start. Yeah,
sure.
I go to the officers club, and the two Army colonels and the Air Force colonel who's putting it on are talking together. So I get a drink and I'm over talking with them. And man, you guys sure live good. I'm telling you. The BOQ room. And, you know, I described it. And the Air Force Colonel looked over at me and he said, Gunner, it ought to be. That's the general's quarters. Them two Army colonels, they huffed up. And you gave it. He said, I don't know anybody's date of rank. He's the only warrant officer here. He's the only one that doesn't call home before he votes. I gave it to him. Oh, Lackland. Yeah, I think.
Oh, Lackland. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I can't remember. That was fun. And then the M9, the Beretta pistol coming out. I got to do a lot of feeling in that. I got accused by my wife sometimes of only coming home to get fresh laundry. I get home on generally Thursday night and be back out for I'd be back out Sunday morning or Sunday night. The La Quinta in Rock Island, I call him up, to this Gunner Bedford, what time you coming, Gunner? I think it was Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Again, I just call there at the airport at Rock Island. Hey, I need this Gunner Bedford. We'll have a sedan. What day? And I want you to know, I'm right there in that. We were kind of equal, but all the services. But even some of the high-ranking civilians, I was the only one that got a 4-door sedan. Oh, yeah. And one time I got back and travel wasn't paying my fuel because I let the rent-a-car company fill it up. I didn't fill it up on the way. By the way, me and him had a set to on a couple of occasions. And I went up to see her, and I was going up to another job, so I was carrying a 12-gauge shotgun. And I told the lady that there needed to be a correction, and she says, no, you've got to fill it up. And I told her, if you can find a station that accepts Diners Club from Rock Island Arsenal to the airport, I'll pay for it. Till then, y'all need to pay for it. And there was another couple other things. I'd done laundry one time. And she said I wasn't authorized to do laundry. And I said, yes, I was. I read the rules. I was there long enough. And I told her, if we keep this up, I'm going to take the barrel off this shotgun and just wrap it around your head. She called the warrant officer out. He came out. We went in his office. Everything got squared away.
I bet it did.
And anytime I had another problem, I go, hey, it's Gunner Bedford. Yeah. Uh-huh. You need to check it. Oh. And two, while I was at Rock Island, went out there. I took my family one time. We drove out, took some leave. And while I was in the meetings, you know, the family would sightsee and different things.
Sure.
And some of the people I worked with, one night, they provided babysitter, and we went to a racetrack, horse race, which was really neat.
Yeah.
We lost because we bet on neat names. And then I'd go to a meeting, come back, I'd change clothes, pick my family up, and we'd go to a restaurant where everybody was eating and have a meal. And my wife finally admitted that she didn't want to go with me anymore, really. But she understood now why I was so tired, and, you know, because we do all the business at night around the bar, yeah, and go in the next day and solidify it. And then, but the other thing is that got me, I got to go to the Beretta Armor School, one of the few. Your nation's capital is a wonderful place to visit. It's not a good place to live.
I bet.
And I went back to then I separated and went back to Portsmouth as a provost marshal, safety officer, security officer. I had some fun there too. We had some stuff we don't talk about. Now, I'm a single parent with a 16-year-old girl. Tell me that ain't fun. So she had some math problems, so I needed a math teacher. And the math teacher assigned high school kids flashcards. So my daughter goes in and the teacher asks her a question. And my daughter doesn't know the answer. And she says, "Didn't you do those flashcards with your dad?" She says, "How could I? Hadn't seen him in 2 weeks." A couple of days after that, we had a drug boat brought in, a seized boat brought in and tied up, and they were my responsibility once they tied them up. And I was down there with that, DEA and Customs and just alphabet soup down there. And the radio calls me up, "Gunner, there's somebody here to see you." Well, I'm busy. "Gunner, you want to come up here." This guy didn't tell me what to do. It just wasn't in his. No, you don't. This is. So I go back to the office. There's 2 Chesapeake, Virginia policemen there, child services guys. And we go in my office, and they start talking about this young lady and that he hadn't been seen and stuff. "Wait a minute, you're talking about me, aren't you?" Yeah. "Well, your daughter said, I told her math teacher that she hadn't seen you in 2 weeks, you know." I said, "Well, you boys didn't do your homework. Let's start off, number 1, she's 18. That's legal age in the state of Virginia." I said, "Number 2, there's a refrigerator with a magnet on it. And there'll be a note that said, 'Dad, we're out of milk, bread, and I ain't got no money.' I'd put a $20 bill on a refrigerator or more and never see change." Yeah. And besides that, there's a telephone in the window of the security office at Coast Guard Support Center that the CO, the XO, me, my daughter, and the captain of the private security are the only ones that had that phone number. She can catch me 24 hours a day because they will know where I'm at. In fact, that goes on to what? I think it was the first one. Desert Storm was the first one?
Right, I think so.
Yeah. I was dating a nice lady then. This is kind of serious. We were out to dinner in Virginia Beach. I'm carrying the cell phone. Remember when they were about that long, had an antenna and it shaped? Yeah. I'm carrying one of those. I got a radio that's a brick. Well, at least I did have an earphone.
Yeah.
And that was the days of the pager. I had one of them. Luckily we'd really finished eating. And this microphone in my ear, it starts going off. The phone starts ringing, and the pager starts going off. So I start getting everything settled down. My lady friend, she called the waiter, because everybody's looking at it, and I'm doing my thing. She says, "You better bring the check. We're leaving." It wasn't real serious, but we're leaving.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We had fun there.
Yeah.
And the other funny one, as a security officer, then I carried a radio. This 80, 88, 89. I was carrying a radio. And I was monitoring it. And we monitored the Admiral's quarters, which had a security alarm company. We monitored the Admiral's quarters. And I heard the base commander was calling up the watch. My security officer was calling the watch to come get the keys to go to the admiral's house. Well, I chimed in. I'm not far from there, and I got a key. I'll take care of it. So I got there. I met the Portsmouth police officer. We talked. We did a circumference check of the outside. We went in. I secured the alarm. I had the code. We looked around downstairs, and we went upstairs. And I saw a light under a door, and I said, "You go that way." So I got a 1911 45 cocked, fingers on the trigger, and I'm left-handed. I can't use that safety. So I opened that door and followed it in and went, "Oops, sorry, ma'am." Call the officer. Let's go. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. But you ain't never seen the face till you see an admiral's wife sitting on the pot and you're following that gun in. Oops. Oh
man.
It was. Well, what had happened is she'd set the downstairs alarm and then went to get her a drink of water or something and didn't set it, so it went off. And of course we showed up, and it was just, I think about a month or so later, Tidewater area Chamber of Commerce's would have a seafood fest at the picnic area on the Coast Guard Center, Portsmouth. And you know, I'm the security officer. I ain't drinking that day.
Yeah.
I'm in charge of, you know. I got something like 1,500 people on my base. And I was walking by the pavilion where the admiral and his wife were at, and she hollered at me, "Hi, Gunner, how are you doing today?" Just as friendly as she could be. And the admiral looked at her and said, "When did you and the Gunner get to be such good buddies?" "Oh, that's okay." I said, "No." You know, fun. They were going to build a bunker, and talking about where they were going to build it, and I told them where they were going to build it, and they said, "No, they're not going to build it there." And I went, "Okay, you're in charge, Captain, but just understand this. Here's this book, and at your court-martial, or whatever they decide to do, I'm safe. I told you, I gave you the book." Yeah, they built it where I wanted it. My other one, my favorite, my other one. At quitting time, some of the civilian workers and some of the workers got to seeing if they could make my security officer private security directing traffic. Let's make him jump. Well, I went out there with an 870 shotgun and directed traffic. Yeah, radio. "Gunner," next morning, I'm sorry, radio. "Gunner, Cap wants to see you." "Yeah, okay." I go in the office. "Yes, sir." "Were you really directing traffic with a shotgun?" I said, "Yes, sir." "Why?" I told him. "You can't do that anymore." "Okay." And he said, "You agreed to that fast?" "Yes, sir. Orders, orders." So the next day, I'm 30 foot behind him in a lawn chair with a shotgun. And then the marijuana boats, when the marijuana boats come in, I think I still chief when this one happened, but you start thinking the marijuana boats come in. Well, when it was sinking, had a leak, and me and my guys were pumping it out, and we'd stand watch on it and keep it pumped out. Well, we got done, and I was going home, not going down Coast Guard Boulevard, and let's just say I had doubled the speed limit. I was getting it, and I don't know where that boy was, but he blue lighted me. I pulled over. He walked up, and I rolled the window down, and he went, "You mind stepping out?" We had a little conversation. He's going to search my truck. I said, you ain't going to find anything. He said, well, I'm going to take you downtown. I said, you don't want to do that. He said, I'm going to take you downtown. I said, look, let's do me a favor. You take me down to that Coast Guard base before you take me downtown, because if you take me downtown, I'm going to make you the laughing stock. I said, because I know, and I named off a lot of the senior people and judges that aren't going to be happy with you arresting me. So we go back in, and I'm in the back seat now, and we go to gate, and he checks in, and he says, what you got Chief Bedford back there for? He's reeking of marijuana. There's got to be something going on. He ought to be. He's been crawling around in it all damn day. The siege vessel. I got to ride back in the front seat. And in case you're wondering, yes, I did get him harassed.
Bet you did.
Oh. And then, what? August of '92, my daughter graduated high school. I put her in an apartment few blocks away from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, and I went to San Diego, California. Wasn't that fun?
Uh-huh.
I'm in the Coast Guard, and I'm now assigned to the Navy in that training mode again. Only this time I'm an officer. Well, the lieutenant commander who was in charge got transferred. The lieutenant who was next in command got transferred. And, hey guys, it's me and a couple of 3 chiefs. I'm in charge. Whew, this ain't cool. And I had a reserve yeoman, female, good looking at that. The only 2 people in the building, male and female, over 40 years old, single, and they put us in the same office.
Oh.
And I worked some strange hours. And we'd go to lunch at 1 o'clock and not come back. Yeah. I'm lucky I didn't get crucified for that one. But it never affected the work, but it's just today, oh man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I remember one day we'd been out trying to do a gun shoot. And there was problems with the airplane, and there was problems with the tugboat, and it was just one thing after the other. I got back in, and I'm walking down the hall of a Navy command. And I'm degrading the Navy in a loud voice using Navy language. I don't think we'll do it on here. I speak fluent sailor. Does have a little bit of a trucker and construction accent. Yeah. And I walked by these 2 commanders who should have jumped me down. Well, Coast Guard gunner's having a bad day today. Yeah. And then we went to Seattle. Hell, I spent almost as much time in Seattle as I did in San Diego. My boss went with me one time. We went to Executive Inn, and the lady behind the counter, the Executive Inn, she said, hey Gunner, here's your keys. And just threw me a set of keys. By the way, before you drink, you come fill out this paperwork. Yes, ma'am. So I go put my stuff away. I go back down to the bar. I walk in the bar, and the lady picks up a glass, puts a couple of ice cubes in it, puts some Jack Daniel in it, puts a splash of water in it. She says, go fill out your paperwork. And I went, how about I take it with me and bring it back? Please? Okay. Oh. But my boss was kind of ripped because he's a lot senior to me then. And yeah, I got the keys. We had a good time. And the ships were fun.
Sounds like you had a great career.
I got I got to ride a lot of boats. I got to meet a lot of people, a lot of
Shoot
good
guns,
people, huh?
And shoot a lot of
I'll
guns.
shoot a lot of guns. If we go back to Gitmo, there was this young fella, and he was a hot casement on a 5-inch gun, which you stand behind the gun. It's enclosed. Stand back there with your hand right close to the breech. When it fires, you got on a glove. It comes back, and then you bat it down.
Oh.
Okay? It keeps from beating up the back of the mount. And
Gotcha.
he was shaking, and he missed a couple. And I took him aside, and I said, now look, I've been doing this a long time, and I've been to a lot of these gun shoots. Here's what you're doing. I was wearing a safety yellow shirt, because you had to have a long sleeve shirt. Right. I was wearing a safety yellow shirt. I said, you see this yellow shirt heading down the deck, your job's to see if you can put footprints up its back. And it was neat. That gun had fired, he'd hit it. That gun had fired, he'd hit it.
Wow.
I seen him some years later. He was a gunner's mate. So which really surprised me, but
yeah.
And then I had some good things. I went on an inspection one time, and they'd just given the boy the job, and instead of inspecting him, I gave him training. I called it training, and gave him a good grade for the inspection. You know, years later, he remembered. You know, what you pass out is what you get back.
That's true.
Yeah, and my other Seattle story. Took a Navy airplane. Went up to the airport, and it's raining. It's Washington. It rains a lot. It was raining, and they had opened the door, and they started throwing our bags out. Well, Master Chief was with me. He went back there and stopped that stuff. And I went up to the cockpit and I said, we got a problem. You boys are throwing my guy's baggage in the water. Well, we got to go. I says, let me tell you how this works. You ain't going no place till there's a vehicle out here to take us to the terminal. Now, I got more guys than you got, and we're going to win. So they radioed their thing. They did something. There's a van come out, got all our stuff. We went. We did our training. Everything is wonderful. We're back at the base. We get back to San Diego. I come in late the next morning. Yeoman, captains want to see you. I don't know what the hell I did this time. So I go see the captain. Well, the captain, the XO and the CO were both captains. I go see them, and they're there together, you know. Next thing I know, I am being chewed out at how rude and ugly and what all I was. And, you know, hey, again, what the hell I do? Oh, wait a minute. What's all this about? Well, the pilots and this and that. And I went, oh, okay. My job is to take care of my men, right? They look at me, I said, that's senior man's job, take care of your troops, right? They both said, yeah. I said, they were throwing our luggage out on a wet tarmac and going to put us off the plane in the rain. And I went up in the cockpit and fixed that. I tried nice. Then I fixed it. And I said, you can call a Master Chief in, who happened to be a Coast Guard Master Chief. I said, you can call a Master Chief in, he'll verify everything I've said. Well, they told me I could leave. And a little later, Master Chief come in the office. Yeah, they'd called him. Yeah, we was good again.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, I got out there, and the parking next to the building is CWO-4 and Commander, CWO-4 Commander and above. You know, okay. So I'm parking there. Well, new XO came in, and he made it Lieutenant Commander and above. And I continued to park there. And one of the Navy W-4 says, you know, we're not supposed to park there anymore. I said, so they tell me. That's where I parked when I got here, and that's where I'm parked until I leave. Yeah, nobody ever said a word to me. So then there's a billet opening up in Coast Guard headquarters, and I really didn't want to go there, but I despise being in San Diego. I mean, I had 4 captains, and all of them wanting something. The 2 from the Navy Command, the captain up in Alameda, and the ship's captain. It's just enough of this. So I called the lady, what do I got to do? And she told me. In fact, I called her on a Navy cell phone on a Coast Guard cutter off the coast of San Diego. No, yeah, I was on Navy ship. I'm sorry. The Navy ship, Navy cell phone off the coast of San Diego, calling Coast Guard, get me out of here. So when I got back in port, I filled out the paperwork and sent it. And a few weeks later, I got orders. And I wrapped up my stuff and left and got my occupation ribbon. You know, if you do a good job, they give you an occupation ribbon. Yeah. It would have been higher, but there was a Master Chief, Navy Master Chief retiring, and they didn't think I should get the same level medal as he got, but that's okay. I went to Coast Guard headquarters, personnel command. Detailer, you're going here, you're going there. Yeah. And there was a whole bunch of people. Wasn't real happy. I had this reputation, and a lot of my billets had been rule enforcer. You know, if you're the rule enforcer, yeah. So they wasn't happy at it. So one day I caught the lady who was my detailer, and I asked her how I got the job, because I knew there were other people politicking for it. She said, Gunner, you were the only one that filled out the paperwork. Oh. What goes around comes around.
That's right.
When I joined the Coast Guard and I got to West Palm Beach, they gave me a government vehicle, and I went down to Miami Beach to not only get uniforms, but to get a briefing about Coast Guard gunnery and ammunition and some of that stuff. And the lad there kind of blew me off because he had a intramural softball game. Okie dokie. That's in 72. In 95, he was on Governor's Island, New York, and wanted to stay there. I had a billet that I needed to fill, a C billet that I needed to fill in Alameda, California. Boy, was he pissed. But I told him, goes around, comes around. You screwed me. Yeah. Gunner Cap won't see you. Did you really tell him that? I'd never do anything like that, Captain. By the way, Captain, here's the paperwork. That last choice down there. Ta-da! And oh, by the way, Captain, he signed it. Damn you! Go on. Oh. That pull off it. I had a.
So tell me a little bit about how long were you in the...
27 years, 11 months, and a day. I was trying for 28, but it didn't.
You had a good career. What year did you get out?
I joined signed a paper December 26, 1968. I officially retired September 1st, 1996.
From the Coast Guard.
And I had a hell of a celebration last year because I had drawn retired pay for longer than I drew active duty pay.
Wow.
I had a good time.
Tell a bit about your career after the military.
I'm sixth generation on a family farm. I already said my uncle. He left it to his sister, my mom. She left it to me. And you hear all of these family squabbles and stuff over land or
Right.
a piece of jewelry or something. My brother gave me his half of the farm.
Wow.
It was agreed that below the Florida line was his, above the Florida line was mine. Well, Mom never changed her will, so it was to my loving sons. He got married, and she had some children with disputable behavior, drugs, and I called him up and I said, hey, we got to do something. Something happens to you. Her kids have a shot at my farm. And he wrote a notarized letter. It's all mine. And so that's how I got to be on the farm. And I got to return the favor because when he sold Mom's house, the lawyer was telling me how much money I was giving up. And by the way, living here, you'll understand, I told him to send it to my name, post office box, post office, Mulberry, Tennessee, and the zip code. He said, need post office, just send it my name, Mulberry, Tennessee, the zip code. Miss Bobby will give me a call when it comes in to come get it. Oh, he sent it to Fayetteville. I didn't get it.
Oh, man.
Time later, I got a call from his office, and it's a 8 or something. And she said, you didn't sign it and all this. And I said, your boss didn't follow instructions. Send it to Mulberry Post Office, Mulberry, Tennessee, zip code, my name. A couple of days later, Woody, you got a letter. So, and then I went and got it done, went and sit back. And then I got another phone call from the lady how quick I had turned it around. I said, well, if your boss had followed instructions. But anyway, I'm on the farm. I'm now in partnership with Charles Ray McGee, who's been with my uncle since 1984. So long, I now have a cattle partner. And I know absolutely nothing. I learned to bale hay. I learned a whole lot of stuff. Well, then I was at the post office, and Candy Richard was running CNR buggy tours, and she was doing a wedding, and she needed 2 trailers to get to it, one for the horse and one for the buggy. And, hey, hell, I'll give you a hand. And that started a relationship. We made a slight run at romance. We lived in the same house. I'd kill her. I'd be in jail. I think the world of a lady, but yeah. Anyway, I started doing more and more with the horse and buggy business. Eventually bought my own horse, and I bought a vis-a-vis carriage and a big wagonette.
What kind of horses?
Back then I had a Belgian fell in my lap. The big Belgian mare fell in my lap. Out of Etheridge, Amish country. Then I had a couple of standard breds. Yeah. There was Skip the Dip, and there was one named Daniel. More times than not, I call him Damn Daniel, with emphasis. I had an American Cream, Belgian, white Belgian.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As we wrap up, you talk about you're basically from Lincoln County, but you have some connections to Lynchburg and Moore County. Talk a little bit about that.
The Lincoln County is of course the McLean family. The Campbell family is Lincoln County. Moore County is Bedfords and Cunninghams. My son called me from Richmond, Virginia one time and said, how close are we to the Cashins? And I had to say, why? Well, she's a Cashin. Okay, this far enough. But there's that. And with the horse and buggy, Lynchburg has just been a wonderful place for me. And I think it was about 2012, 2013, something like that, I bought Candy outright. It's my business. My kids kind of got on my case for not changing the name, but in this kind of community, if you change the name, you got to start all over.
That's right.
So I kept the same name. As you know, we did host a Christmas past for many, many years. It just got too hard. We got too old. And then we were talking when I first come in tonight that you didn't mind being here with just me because we've done this many times before.
Absolutely.
I was on the board of directors for the Lynchburg Chamber of Commerce for 13 years.
Right.
I spent 5 years as president. There's something about if you're going to be a member, be active. I'm in Masons at Ferris Creek in Lynchburg, 509. I've been worshipful master there. I'm in Masons here at Andrew Jackson up on Edge Hill. I've been worshipful master there. If you're going to do it. And that's been my... And
you've had a good life, and would you tell young people that how good the military was to lead you into this part of your life?
Everybody's not meant to go to college, and I definitely wasn't. Okay, my daddy was a carpenter, and there were a lot of mornings, Saturday mornings, boy, you're coming with me. Yep.
Good.
There's a lot of mornings you're coming with me. So I learned to be a carpenter a little bit, and then I played with guns when we were here when I was growing up, about 5 or 6 years old. I would get so angry with my mother because she wouldn't let me wear my guns to church. But it's been just a marvelous life, and whatever you do, and this has been one of my mottos and one of the things I pass on, whatever you do, learn the rules. If you learn the rules, you can bend them. And the other thing that I tell, and I don't care what your profession is, and I know you're going to agree with me to this, there is nothing in this world more important than your name.
True, very true.
We spoke at Desert Storm earlier. I was in Head Coast Guard headquarters. We needed a certain kind of gun mount because they were going to send Coast Guard cutters to the Persian Gulf. I was getting them things with phone calls because of my reputation.
Right.
And me and that commander had a falling out because when the Washington Post or whatever said the Navy was going to save Coast Guard, they dropped that bucket. Well, I got them mounts, you still got to pay for them. Yeah, you're buying a riding mower for New Orleans. Yeah. But your name and know the rules. And even today with taxes, know the rules.
That's true.
And
Woodye Bedford, that's a good name, and you've carried that name in a lot of places. And we appreciate your service, number one. We appreciate you telling your story, and we appreciate what you do around here.
Well, it's a reason to get up every morning.
Thank you very much for your time.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.